The Sparrow Who Stole Winter. In the oldest part of the world, where the pine trees grew so thick they whispered secrets to the stones, there was a season that did not end properly. Autumn bled its colors dry, but winter refused to come. The world hung in a brutal, frostless silence. Ponds glazed not with ice, but with a stubborn, cold sheen. The air had no bite, only a damp, endless chill. People whispered that the heart of winter had been lost. They were almost right. Winter had not been lost, it had been stolen. The thief was Kira, a sparrow no bigger than a child's fist, with feathers the color of storm clouds and a single brilliant streak of white at her wingtip, like the first slash of a snowflake. She was a curious bird and fiercely protective. The previous autumn, she had built the perfect nest, a woven cradle of thistledown and spider silk tucked deep in the elbow of a granite cliff. In it, she laid 3 eggs, speckled like milky quartz. But as the days shortened, a deep, primal fear nestled in her breast. She felt the coming winter not as a season, but as a vast white predator, a silent beast that would freeze her precious unhatched chicks in their shells. Its breath was the killing frost, its voice the howling wind. And so, on the very night winter was meant to descend from the star-strewn vault of the sky, Kira did a brave and terrible thing. As the first spectral tendrils of frost crept over the land, she did not shelter, she flew. She soared to the highest, coldest point, where the air was thin and sharp as glass. She saw it then, winter itself, not a beast, but a swirling, silent essence, a crystalline consciousness of deep blue and silver settling over the world like a blanket. It was beautiful, and it was deadly. With a cry that was both defiance and plea, Kira opened her small wings and flew directly into the heart of it. She did not fight it, she gathered it. She drew the essence of winter not into her body, but between her feathers. The deep cold, the potential for snow, the quieting hush, the glittering promise of ice, she folded it all into the tiny spaces within her plumage. To the world, she simply vanished into a sudden dense mist. When she emerged, she was profoundly heavy. She flew back to her nest, sluggish, her wings beating with unnatural effort. Where she passed, a strange stillness followed. She settled upon her eggs, and the world below remained stuck in its cold gray limbo. Winter was hidden, trapped in 1,000 tiny pockets under her feathers. At first, she felt triumphant. Her cliffside was protected. A fragile, localized spring held her nest in a bubble of manageable chill. Her eggs were safe. But the stolen season weighed on her. She could no longer fly with her old joyous darting. Every wing beat was a labor. Her song, once a bright chip, became a low, shivering note. She felt the immense pressure of the sleeping storm within her, the blizzards yearning to rage, the frosts desperate to bloom on windows, the deep preserving cold that the roots of sleeping trees ached for. Down in the village, the people grew anxious. Without the cleansing freeze, sickness lingered. Without snow to insulate the earth, the seeds tossed in the fields restlessly shifted, unsure. The old storyteller, Hazel, who knew the language of owls and the patience of mountains, watched the static sky. She observed the single heavy sparrow that sometimes appeared at the edge of the wood, moving like a stone with wings. She saw the unnatural ring of frost-rimmed berries around its nest cliff, while the rest of the world simply withered. Hazel understood. The balance was broken. The world needed its rest, its blank white page. One still gray afternoon, as Kira huddled on her nest, a profound loneliness gripped her. The weight of the stolen season was a loneliness of its own, a solitude so vast it was crushing her spirit. At that moment, she felt a tiny tap-tap-tap from beneath her, then a crack. A minute beak pierced an eggshell, then another and another. 3 damp, blind, and impossibly fragile chicks wriggled into the world, cheeping weakly. They were alive. Her fear had been for them, and now they were here. But as they nuzzled against her, seeking warmth, Kira felt the terrible cold she harbored just beneath her breast. She could not give them her true warmth, for she was hoarding winter. A desperate sorrow filled her. She had saved them from one death only to offer them a slower, colder one. Her love had been a cage for herself and for the world. With a heart breaking and mending all at once, Kira knew what she must do. She gently disentangled herself from her brood, tucking them deep into the downy lining of the nest. She hopped to the edge of the granite cliff, looking out over the stagnant world. She began to preen, not a casual, tidy preening, but a frantic, deliberate undoing. With her beak, she tugged at the bases of her primary feathers, the coverts, the soft down of her breast. She was not plucking them out, but opening them, releasing the seals. A sigh escaped her, visible as a plume of the purest, coldest vapor. Then another. From between her feathers, a fine diamond dust began to sift, not falling down, but spiraling out. It was the first snow, a tiny, localized flurry born from her shoulders. She shook herself, a full-bodied tremor from beak to tail. More snow flurried, and with it came a cold, clean wind, her wind, the breath of winter she had stifled. She raised her head and sang, not her sparrow song, but the song she had absorbed, the whistle through barren branches, the creak of settling ice, the hush of falling snow. It was the song of release. She leapt from the cliff, and for the first time since the theft, she flew not with burdened struggle, but with a soaring, liberated grace. As she flew in great widening circles over the forest, over the fields, over the village, winter streamed from her in ribbons of frost and gusts of scouring wind. The sky, responding to the returned season, darkened to slate. True snow began to fall, fat, lush flakes that piled upon the dormant earth. Kira flew until her feathers felt light again, until her song returned to a sparrow's cheerful chirp. She flew until the world below was transformed into a quilt of white, and the sharp, clean smell of winter filled the air. The great silent beast she had feared was not a beast at all, but a necessary sleep, a beautiful pause. Exhausted but light, she returned to her cliff. The nest was dusted with snow, but nestled within its insulated walls, her 3 chicks were warm. The bubble of stolen spring was gone, but in its place was the genuine, secure cold of true winter. She settled over them, her own body heat now ample, her heart no longer a prison, but a hearth. Down in the village, Hazel stood at her window watching the world turn white. She saw a single sparrow, a dark speck against the falling snow, darting joyfully towards the cliffs. She smiled and whispered to the fire on her hearth. The smallest heart can hold a great season, but it is in the letting go that we find our true warmth. And the winter, now rightfully in its place, wrapped the world in a deep, peaceful, and restorative silence, keeping watch over all sleeping things under a blanket woven by a sparrow's brave and tender heart.